What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about another player that the Detroit Lions brought in for a visit, and this is another safety. This time, it's Dean Marlowe. So let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome, everybody, to another video. Glad you guys are here. And you're probably thinking, hey, why are we doing this new camera angle? I kind of like it. Like, I went back and edited my last video. I did it my last video like this because I was like, oh, yeah, the computer's right here. It's a nice, you know, visual for me. But then I went back to edit. I was like, that looks kind of clean. Hold up. I kind of like it. So we might do this more often. I don't know. I got to get something cool for that spot because that's like the dead area. But it looks cool. I like it. Maybe we'll make some things around a little bit. But I kind of like the angleism on this. Okay, so the word angleism that I was looking for doesn't show up with a definition. Instead, it's angelism. I think that's different. That's definitely not exactly what I was going for there. So angleism might not be a word. All right, learning something new every day. Okay. I don't know, something about it's good. If you guys like it, let me know in the comment section below if you guys like this angle. Either way, we're getting off topic here. We got to talk about this guy named Dean Marlowe, who the Lions hosted for a visit. And you know what? I'm going to say it right now before we even get to the video. Don't be shocked if the Lions sign this guy.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I'm going to leave it right there. Do not be surprised whatsoever if the Lions sign Dean Marlowe. Something about this guy tells me that the Lions may really like him because I kind of like him. There's something about his game. And it hasn't played a ton. There's something about his game that I really like, and I just don't know if I can put my finger on it. But let's talk about who is Dean Marlowe. Well, Dean Marlowe is a safety that went to college at James Madison, so he went undrafted, and he ended up being signed as a UDFA by the Carolina Panthers. College, he put up some solid numbers with James Madison, but of course, they're kind of overlooked. In the 4 years that he was there, was a four-year player. He had 12 total interceptions, 30 total passes defended, and over 320 total tackles. So he was definitely involved that way. He came out as a bigger safety. He measured in about 6'1.5", around 203 pounds. So he came out of college as one of the bigger safeties that ran a 4.58 40-yard time. So pretty good speed there. It's actually very similar to Jamar Johnson, who came in at 6'2", 205, ran a 4.58 40, the exact same, and he had a three-cone drill of 3.22. So I thought that was very similar. And he had 17 bench press reps. Out of college, Dean Marlowe had 16 in bench press reps. So just a lot of similarities there if you guys wanted to have some kind of comparison and just terms of build and kind of what they look like athletically. And maybe Dean Marlowe's a little bit quicker, actually, because the three-cone drill was pretty good. But he came out as a UDFA. He was signed by the Carolina Panthers and really just never really found his footing there. He was kind of cut on the practice squad there, not there. And he ended up then going to the Buffalo Bills. So he ended up with the Buffalo Bills in 2017 where he signed. He was a little bit on and off there, but he kind of slowly worked his way up the depth chart as a reserve for the Buffalo Bills. Never really became their guy as a safety, but he worked his way up their depth chart. And finally, last season was the most that we got to see him on the field. He went from 2019 playing 10% of the defensive snaps to 2020 last year playing over 20%, playing 22% of the defensive snaps, while also seeing 48% of the special teams snaps. So last year was kind of his, coming out party, I guess, for Dean Marlowe, where he started to see the field a little bit, played in 15 games, started 4 of those games technically, but it was really 2 games on the schedule where he saw his most playing time, and that came week 8 against New England, where he was out there as a starter. He played over 60 snaps, and then week 17, the last week of the season, where he played against the Miami Dolphins, a divisional opponent, where he had 2 interceptions, rookie quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, which is pretty cool. Statistically, and only, like I said, 22% of the defensive snaps, he still found a way to put up 22 combined tackles, 2 interceptions, both coming against Tua, 3 passes defended, and 1.5 sacks. And even in college, he only had 1 total sack in 4 years, so they got him involved there a little bit. His snap counts came in a lot of different spots. Very versatile safety, kind of like Will Parks, who we talked about yesterday. 54 snaps were labeled as box snaps. 56 snaps were labeled as nickel cornerback snaps, and 96 came at the free safety position. So bounced all around, honestly, for the Buffalo Bills defensively. Played a lot of different spots when he was on the field. But I really wanted to just take a look at that Patriots game, and I kind of looked at that one a little bit. I didn't dive too much into the film as usual because we haven't signed him yet. But if we do sign him, of course, I'll dive into a little bit more. For last season, even though he didn't play in a lot of snaps, his PFF grades came in at a 53.6 overall, 50.7 against run, 84.4 as a pass rusher, and a 52.1 in coverage. I just thought it was interesting that he had more sacks playing in 22% of the defensive snaps than he did as the team captain with James Madison in 4 years. He only had 1 total sack. Now in high school, he played quarterback and defensive back, so that may help him a little bit that he was a former quarterback, even though it was back in high school. That may help him a little bit at the next level. But let's talk about his fit for the Detroit Lions. So the way I see his fit actually may be really good. So this is one reason I think the Lions could be interested. In a Buffalo Bills defense that last season ran a 4-3 base, but 75% of the time they were in a 4-2 defense because of the nickel sets all the time. So he kind of slid into that nickel role where he played like the linebacker spot, but also could play deep safety because they ran a lot of cover 3, mixed in some cover 4, and in man coverage they played a lot of cover 1. So I think schematically the fits are there because the Detroit Lions I think are going to run a pretty good amount of cover 3 next season. He can play the man defense, and I think he can play the free safety position. He seemingly looks comfortable there. What I can tell, they seemingly played into one gapping defense in front, which is pretty common when they're mainly playing a 4-3 defense, but a lot of times he was split safety looks while mixing in some of the deep set safeties and him playing in the box. And the Lions are expected to run a lot of split safety, as that was Aubrey Pleasant's background as well, and it's something that Aaron Glenn directly brought up as a reason that he went after Aubrey Pleasant because of the split safety. The Detroit Lions, I don't know if they necessarily have a guy for that spot right now. I mean, they've had guys that have rotated with Will Harris, Tracy Walker, and they could of course add it to the draft, but he seems comfortable at that free safety position, backing up there, playing the cover 3, playing the cover 1 as that single high deep safety. So I do think the Lions would like that. Also, he adds size. He now lists at about 6'2", 208 pounds, so he's put on a little bit more weight, and because of that size, he's been very comfortable playing and sliding down into that linebacker role, just like we saw the Saints do last season. Most of the time they played the 4-2-5 defense, and they would have a guy like Malcolm Jenkins or someone like that slide into that role like a linebacker, and because of his size, he looks very comfortable, and that's why he has 22 tackles. Now, he does have 4 missed tackles, but he seems very comfortable there, and he can play with a lot of power for a safety. So his size is very beneficial to not only help as a run defender, but also be able to take on tight ends, things like that, because he can match up really size for size, and he's really not outmatched in those situations, and he does have enough speed to have the range to play the free safety position at 4'5'8", not overly athletic. You know, to have a lot of speed, it's probably about average. He doesn't have the best closing speed either, but it's enough to help him in man-to-man situations against certain receivers, but also against tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. Against receivers, I see him matched up against some of the less shifty receivers in man-to-man coverage, but he's still able to kind of hold his own ground there, keep good leverage, and, you watch him, he's able to stay disciplined. I just think there's a lot of things that the Lions may like here. He is 28 years old, so he's not super young because he was a 4-year college player, and really up to this point, he hasn't found his footing in the NFL really until last season. The fact that he can play deep safety and he seems comfortable there, the Patriots dropping into that deep safety role, and I don't know if Will Parks is as comfortable in that. He doesn't have necessarily the range that a guy like Dean Marlowe has. Dean Marlowe is not super as fast. He's not Andre Sisco. He's not that kind of range, but he does have enough, like Jamar Johnson does. So I see that in his game, and I think the Lions will like that. I also think they'll like his power, and I think they'll love his scheme fit. Concerns is really the closing burst here, the speed. To me, going against some of those shiftier receivers, does have some missed tackles, but I think you can utilize him as a pass rusher more than he was at college. Really, just from the little I've seen, his versatility is something the Lions are going to like here, and it's just the play style that he has. Limited snaps, 2 interceptions against rookie Tua was nice. He doesn't have that kind of closing down speed as some other free safeties will with that kind of range where he's going to, be able to jump down to plays extremely quickly. So he has to really anticipate things. He can't be as reactionary. He has to be more proactive as a safety, which I don't think is always a bad thing, because that's something that I've noticed with Jamar Johnson coming out of the draft. He had to be more proactive, not necessarily reactive, because he wasn't extremely fast where he could rely on his athleticism. Same thing kind of goes here for Dean Marlowe. It seems like he's late on certain plays just from the little film that I watched, and that's probably why he's, giving up some yards and completions, things like that. But keep in mind that for him being late is not the same being late for some of the more explosive and faster, free safeties that have more range. Because those guys, they have a little more time to react because they can be a little bit quicker to close down on things. He needs to be on top of things in the back end. If you're not on top of things, just being a 0.5 seconds off can really hurt you. So he has more of a build to play like the box safety, but he still has shown that ability to play the deep end and seemingly be comfortable there. So I think that's, maybe this reaction time is something that he's continuing to build on. He's not perfect. There's a reason he hasn't had tons of playing time, but he's been, behind a pretty solid safety group for Buffalo. And for the Detroit Lions, he could have an opportunity to rotate in as a guy that can play in a spot in the box, but also drop back in the deep safety if he had to. But for the price that the Lions could be looking at here to pay for another guy just to add depth and add more competition, which competition is always great, guys that are competing for roles and kind of around that 28-year-old age, right, where he's, getting an opportunity here to be a guy to earn a role for the Lions next season. And of course, they could draft somebody, but it does continue to fill out that position. So I think this honestly fits better than Will Parks, but we'll see. Maybe they'll go with a guy like Will Parks, and just keep trying out guys, seeing who's available. well. But in terms of the two, I like this fit better. He does have a hamstring injuries in the past. Clearly, there's a lack of playing time and there's a lack of experience, and he has given up the 2 touchdowns. I think speed can definitely be an issue there, but I think for the Lions are looking for, Dean Marlowe does check a lot of the boxes I think they could be looking at. So we'll see if they sign him, but that is your latest Lions news. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Detroit, thank you, Pride, for, I about said Detroit Lions. Thank you, Pride, for watching, and I'm out.